in split backfield at the time, and it was an option pass, and it's just a matter of reading the cornerback, whether the cornerback will come up to take me on a run or whether he drops back to cover Robin on a pass. And as it turned out, he came up to cover me on the run, and just happened that Robin was behind him, and I just sort of dropped the pass over his head, and he had no way of getting back in time for it.
A bit of razzle-dazzle in the Navy offense. An option pass from Bob Jackson to top receiver Robin Ameen, coupled with this super defensive effort by number 19 Ed Jeter, combined to provide Navy with one of its greatest thrills of the 1974 gridiron season and Navy's second effort. The season was young, a mere 2 weeks old, when Navy sailed into Penn State territory with high hopes of scuttling the mighty Nittany Lions. Fresh off a victory against Virginia in the opener, even the weather could not dampen Navy spirits. Head coach George Welsh recalls the day.
That was probably one of the worst football games that I had ever stood on the field and went through, because it was raining, it was blowing, and it was cold. And it seemed like it continued for the whole football game.
At times, it's hard to be enthusiastic. This was such a time, but Navy knew its mission, and that mission, an upset. Phil Poyer at the helm. Jackson on a sweep for good yardage as each team tests its game plan against the elements and the opposition's defense. Navy introduced many heroes on this gray and wet September day, and the first was rover Chet Moeller as he makes a great defensive play early in the game. It's the second quarter, and Navy begins to assert itself.
One of the key things was that we were able to put an 80-yard drive in the second quarter. Bob Jackson made the long run for us to get us started. He caught a couple passes. I thought Phil Poyer did an outstanding job in picking his receivers.
Phil Poyer looks again to Bob Jackson, open in the flat, and Jackson sidesteps a tackle before going out at the 10. Now the big play. Poyer pitches left to Jackson on the option. And with the Lion cornerback coming up to cover the run, Jackson sees Ameen behind him for the biggest touchdown of the year. Navy hits pay dirt with a 7-0 lead. Jackson reflects on this moment.
They were keying real hard, and we had to do something to break their keys, and it was the big thing that, big play in the game.
And then after that, we kind of got very conservative because we had a tough time making a first down, but Penn State seemed to be able to move the football when they wanted to, but I thought we played outstanding defense when we had to, and that coupled with the fumbles was the big thing as far as I was concerned in the Penn State game.
7 Penn State fumbles, costly fumbles, and a heads-up Navy defense recovers 5.
I think that we were emotionally ready to play that day. I think that our team was well prepared, and the combination of all those things helped us win the game.
But mighty Lions don't die quietly. They go out with a roar, with a touchdown in the final minutes of the game. The stage is set for perhaps the most dramatic play of the season, the attempted two-point conversion. A gamble for a Penn State win. Ed Jeter is the man on the spot, knocking down the pass. Heroics that preserve the win for Navy, and the final score 7-6. A crucial triumph for the Midshipmen over one of the top teams in the country. For Coach Welsh, it was the second win in 2 games. Of this, his second season at Navy, a win which both he and his players will savor for some time to come.
To beat a team like Penn State was actually the biggest thrill of my life here at Navy.
It was unbelievable, really. But we knew that we could do it, and we went out there and we did.
Of course, it was a good win personally for me, because I had worked with Coach Paterno for so many years, and it's always gives you a lot of satisfaction to go back and win a game like that.
2 games with 2 victories, and spirits run high at the Academy. But 2 wins do not a season make, and Navy is on its way to do battle with the likes of Michigan, Air Force, Notre Dame, and Pittsburgh.
Well, when you play big-name teams, it helps the school out in that everybody's exposed to big league football, because that's primarily why everybody came to play football in Navy, to play against the best, so that when you win, you're noticed more, and it's just a good feeling to beat the best.
Riding the crest of a 2-0 record, Navy launches into its next games with confidence and great expectations. Will this be Navy's year? But the job facing Coach Welsh is formidable. He must rebuild, shape, and mold an entirely new offense. And while enthusiasm and spirit will carry a team so far, as Welsh says, there comes a time when experience and talent must take over. Victories were hard to come by in the next few weeks, but there was satisfaction in strong showings against major opponents. George Welsh is realistic about the season.
I thought this year was a year of transition for us. It was the second year of this staff being here. It was a year in which we had to rebuild an entire offensive unit, and it was a year in which we were going to see the fruits of our first full recruiting here at the Naval Academy. So I thought that it would probably tell us a lot about what our future was going to be here. We played well against some of our other major opponents. We showed that we could come back from some tough losses, some losses like we had against Air Force, and come on to play good football in the next 4 or 5 weeks. We felt that we were capable of winning, of having a winning season, but as everybody knows now why we ended up 4-7. But we did make some definite progress, and we accomplished some of our goals.
While the offense was gaining in poise, skill, and effectiveness as the season wore on, the defense carried more than its share of the burden. And Navy's highlights in action this season are largely theirs. With performance improving with each game, Coach Welsh can depend on a solid unit with standouts Dave Papak, 77, Andy Bushak, 50, and Chet Moeller, 48, all returning in 75. But the defense could not do it all in 1974, and there were moments of frustration.
I felt some frustration. There were times when we played the big teams in the nation and didn't fare that well, that we could have won, and we just didn't quite have enough. And what it did to me was it proved to myself that we had the makings of a good team. We could knock off the powerhouses in the nation.
A 48-yard punting average by John Stufflebeam, one of the finest punters in Navy history, and 2 excellent field goals by Steve Dykes, won a school record 48-yarder, characterized one of Navy's finest hours of the 1974 season against mighty Notre Dame.
We really did feel frustrated after losing to Notre Dame because we had them for 3 quarters, and then all of a sudden, the roof fell in, and we lost the game.
Navy's success this year was not measured in wins and losses alone, but also in individual performances, particularly the effort of Cleveland Cooper, number 25, the senior from Rochester, New York. Navy's all-time career rushing leader, Cooper finished with over 2,500 yards in 3 seasons, while setting 4 other Navy season records. Not destined to appear in the record books is his remarkable durability. He never missed a game due to injury during his entire 3 seasons on the varsity. He has secured his place in the annals of Navy football. Having tasted moments of greatness and some of despair, Cleveland Cooper knows what it is to be a midshipman and to play Navy football.
I think it's great playing under Coach Welsh. He, being a former midshipman, he understands what it's like to play football and to be here at the Naval Academy.
I think there is a super rapport between the coaches and the players here at the Academy. And it's one encouraging thing that I really like when I was recruited here. The coaches here, they really realize what you have to go through to be a midshipman and a football player here at the Academy. It just makes it one big family here as far as I'm concerned with the coaches and the players. And we're starting to attract a lot better athletes here.
One of these is Mike Roban, number 15, a freshman quarterback from Great Falls, Montana. He gained both an increasing amount of playing time and major responsibilities as the season progressed. Big and strong with an excellent arm and keen eye, he's a threat as a runner as well. Having already been thrust into a vital position as a freshman, Roban will be a key figure when Welsh structures Navy's offense in 1975.
Okay, the biggest thing I really found out about being a plebe on the varsity football team was the fact that you go out there in the field and everybody's just really behind you. You depend on everybody to really put out 110% all the time. The support is just unreal, they just go crazy.
With backs like Roban and Ed Gilmore, Navy's football horizon is becoming considerably brighter.
we're definitely on our way back. As you know, all good schools, they have their eras where they're great, and then they start declining, and then they start coming back up again. It's a cycle, and I think we're definitely headed in the right direction now. We're on the upswing of our cycle, and I think the future holds a lot of good things in store for Navy football.
As for the future, it's now. This is John F. Kennedy Stadium in Philadelphia. Season records mean little. Other triumphs and frustrations are forgotten as minds and bodies tune up for this, the game of the season. It's the 75th renewal of the classic of college football, the Army-Navy game.
Playing in the Army-Navy game is the apex of it all. It's a feeling you can't describe. The pageantry, the crowd, TV cameras.
It's just a good feeling that everybody experiences as everybody comes together, so to speak, at once.
The thing that gets me most about the Army-Navy game is the tradition of it all. The game has been played for 75 years now, and I think of all the players that have played before and how the win and loss records come out between the Army and the Navy teams, and now I'm a part of it all after playing in the Army-Navy game. And that means something to me, being a part of a classic and becoming tradition myself.
It's hats off to President Gerald Ford and to 100,000 frantic fans at the stadium, and to the fans everywhere at home and around the world as the cadets and middies are set to do battle once again.
You just get a gut feeling inside of you that just swells for 2 weeks and finally bursts on the day that you come out on the field to play the Army team.
The mood of the day is set on the kickoff as Navy drops the cadets on their own 6-yard line. Army is stopped cold in the mid-drive to set up a long field goal attempt.
Steve Dykes kicking a 45-yard field goal early in the game certainly was a big play for us because we seem to play better when we get on the board early.
A big one indeed, a beauty, giving Navy the lead and tying a 52-year-old Army-Navy game record as Navy springs in front. It's but a preview of things to come. On Navy's next possession, John Stufflebeam punts.
And then they fumbled a punt, and it allowed us to have the ball in good field position, and we made a 13-yard drive or so to make it 10-0, and that put us in good shape.
Roban hands off to Jackson, and with good blocking and second effort, the big fullback muscles his way over the goal line. Coach Welsh reveals some of the Navy defensive strategy on that day.
We were facing a wishbone offense, and that was new for us, except 2 weeks before we had played Georgia Tech, and I think that having played Georgia Tech helped us. We discarded some of the things that didn't look good to us when we played them, and added some things against Army. I think the big thing that we decided to do, we let our ends play the pitch most of the day. We brought our ends up the field and let the rover back, Moeller, who was probably the surest tackler on the team, play their quarterback. We felt their quarterback globally was the one guy on the team that could beat us, and beat us with his running, so we wanted to put our best on Army's best, and we decided to let Moeller take the quarterback most of the day, and I think that was one of the big things that helped us.
Moeller on 4th down drops Galogli for a big loss and sets up an important Navy drive. Roban, in the biggest game of his life, pitches back to Super Cooper, the only man in Army-Navy game history to rush for more than 100 yards in 3 successive games. Navy begins to take command. Roban gives to Jerry Goodwin for a big gain up the middle. It's Goodwin again, as the freshman fullback gets a good workout, making 20 carries for 92 yards that day. Jackson sweeps around right end, powering his way in for another score. Navy leads 17-0. Navy is at it again, this time the defense, as Ed Jeter picks off a long Army aerial. Navy has dominated the first half and holds a commanding 17-0 lead at halftime. In the first presidential appearance at an Army-Navy game since 1962, President Ford, in keeping with tradition, switches sides, if not allegiance. Early in the third quarter, Army mounts its longest and most determined drive. On 4th and 4, the drive comes to an abrupt halt at the Navy 6, inches short of a first down. Unable to make a first down, Navy calls on the boomer, John Stufflebeam, who comes up with a 49-yarder to put Army back in its place. In the very next series, the alert Navy defense sparkles again as J.J. Scott picks off this Army pass, setting up yet another big Navy drive.
We changed some things offensively, too. We went to a power I formation that put Goodwin, Jackson, and Cooper in the same backfield and used Jackson as a receiver more than we had previously. And I think that helped us control the football. We got a lot of yards rushing. We got Jackson in the game with our two other best backs. And I think Mike Roban, the lead quarterback, starting his first Army game for us and only his second game of the year, performed very well, and we got a good game up front.
A swift pass from Roban to tight end Kevin Sullivan, and a Navy first down. Gilmore on a sweep picks up another chunk of yardage. Again, Roban pitches to Gilmore, who streaks through to the 1. The drive stalls, but once again, the Navy defense is ready. Number 84 and Tim Harden is the man on Gologly for a 2-point safety. Navy is in command. The scoreboard reflects the joy of Navy fans. 19-0 as the third quarter ends. Fourth quarter action now. Once more, Army's efforts never get off the ground. This time, it's freshman John Sturgis, 28, with this interception. With victory virtually assured, it now becomes a matter of pride for the defense to keep Army off the scoreboard and record Navy's second shutout of the cadets in as many years. George Welsh's record against Army could not be more perfect. With a 51-0 shutout last year and with 19-0 on the board this year, Army has yet to score a point against the Middies under Welsh. And Navy retains the coveted Commander-in-Chief's trophy for yet another year. For Coach George Welsh, his second season was a great second effort. And if the will to win is the first step toward victory, then Navy has taken 2 long strides toward that goal, with a future ever brighter.
We didn't accomplish all that we wanted to do. We still had a good time at it, and I think that's one of the most important things, too, enjoying what we did.